That's better. That thing catches me out every single morning. Good morning. Good morning. How the devil are you doing this fine day? Hope you're all fit and well. I was saying this in the chat just a moment ago. This is a weird show. And I can't imagine me ever doing this, to be perfectly honest, but I'm going to say it anyway. Sorry, some of my buttons are not playing ball here. I start at 10 o'clock. I mean, I'm here at sort of 7-ish, pulling all this nonsense together, but I'm sat in the background. And yet the chat here when did it start this morning? Started at 9:04, and it used to be just Dan Cullen. Dan used to arrive early just to prove that he could arrive early. It's not just him anymore. Andy Darville was here at 9:27, again, long before I was due to go live. Going down a little bit further, Peter McKenna was here at 9:52. Hello, what's going on here? Not a great deal at that point. And then Andy Thornton was here at 9:55. And as Andy said, we're only a matter of time before we're queuing at the outside the stage door, as if I have a stage door, waiting for autographs. Autographs are freely available, as you well know. Nobody will be able to sell them because they're gibberish. Jim Turner's here as well. Jim, when are you off to Plantworks? Is it today? Is it tomorrow? What's going on? There's Dan Cullen, morning teammates. Chris Ford, are you off to Plantworks as well? Mate of mine popped in there yesterday, said a bit quiet, but today obviously is the middle day, which is very much the day to be there, I would imagine. Peter McKenna says, I'm here. Good morning, Peter. I haven't pressed your button yet. There you are. Andy Darville says, love your hat. Got any more? No, I haven't, unfortunately. This is a bit of a limited edition, this one. Although, obviously, I'm going to the States in about a week's time. No, week and a half. 4th of October, I'm going. And according to Caterpillar, they're going to have quite a display there of 100th. They're celebrating the centenary, apparently. So they're going to have a lot of machines in the old traditional sort of grey, battleship grey colour of Caterpillar. So I'm looking forward to seeing some of that. I'm hoping there'll be a few more of these or something very similar available. If there are, I will, honestly, I promise I will bring them back if I possibly can. Let's have a look. What have we got? Jim Turner says, went yesterday to Plantworks. It was a good day. Good. Glad to hear it. Glad to hear it. Imagine queuing down your road. Yeah, the neighbours would not be pleased. I mean, the neighbours aren't particularly fans of mine anyway, to be honest. Peter says, good morning. Oh, pressing my buttons. Hypo don't explode. Kaboom. Yeah, listen, unlikely to happen. Ask my wife, she'll tell you. And there's Andy saying good morning to no, it's not, it's Dan saying good morning to Andy, Chris, Jim, Peter, and all you other porn addicts. Lots going on over on Instagram as well. I will just very quickly inform the Instagram folks that I'm about to do a competition. You can't enter from Instagram. You can't enter from Instagram. So if you'd like to be part of the competition to win some stuff, you need to go over to LinkedIn. Look out for me, Mark Anthony. The spelling is on the screen there. You could go to YouTube. Just go to YouTube and type Demolition News 1, the number 1. You'll find me there. Over on Facebook, on Diggers and Dozers, you'll be able to do all of that. Peter, it's a good guess, but it's not right. You'd be surprised how close you are, funnily enough, but that's not the right answer. So I tell you what, let's get on with that, shall we? Let me roll the intro and get this show on the road. It is Wednesday, the 24th of September. Welcome to the Breakfast Show. I am your host, Mark Anthony, the Walrus of Demolition, the Lord High Chancellor of live streaming. In today's show, is it a scraper? Is it a roller? Yeah, actually, it's both. Caterpillar discussing hydrogen power. We've got some demolition from Econ. I think Dan worked for Econ for a while, so this will be like going back in time. And Merlo's new cab serves a suspension. It'll make sense when we get there, I promise. In today's morning monologue, running on empty, the ticking time bomb of sleep deprivation. It will all become clear when we get there. But the last couple of weeks. I don't know whether it's the change in temperature, from super hot to not quite so hot. I don't know whether it's I'm just knackered. I don't know what it is. Absolute nightmare sleeping. I can't get to sleep, and when I do get to sleep, I can't stay asleep. So I'm triggered to talk about all things sleep deprivation. That's what we're going to be doing in the morning monologue. But there is no question of the day today. We're going to be sticking with our minute to win it feature. So the goodie box today is going to have a bunch of stuff in it, including several hats. So that's going to be our code word for the day. I'd like you to type hat into the chat. Very quickly, I will very, very quickly say to those folks over on Instagram, you can't enter from there. There's no point in typing hat over there because you need to do it over here on LinkedIn, on YouTube, on Facebook, or on Twitch. Yeah, you could do it on Twitch as well. You could do all of those things, but which is where we're broadcasting right now. But you've got 1 minute in which to type the word hat. How are we going to clock it today? Should we do Mission Impossible or should we do? Let's do the other one. Let's do this one.
T minus 1 minute. T minus 50 seconds. T minus 40 seconds. T minus 30 seconds. T minus 20 seconds. Ten, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0.
There's a very, very, very healthy 12 entries to that. Before I press the button, I am going to say good morning to Lee Upton, who's just joined us. Morning, Lee. Thank you very much indeed for being here. If you haven't typed the word hat into the chat for your chance to win, do so now. You've got a couple of seconds. I want to go back very quickly, though. Let's have a look. Loads and loads of entries. Dan Cullen has me on surround sound again today. I can only apologise for how I sound in that case. Signs of old age, Mark. You need less sleep as you get older. You might. My body says I need more sleep. My brain apparently disagrees with that. Apparently disagrees. Dan apparently has worked for Econ. Never again. Econ don't treat men with respect. Was good at the beginning, but then all changed. Sad to hear that. Andy Talvell says Dan's not allowed to enter. He has enough hats. Let's have a look. I think Dan actually said, there you are. Oh, Andy, I was looking for an update. He's got 150 hats at the moment. I've got many more of those, but that's mainly because I've got some duplicates, which is kind of what I'm giving away at the moment. Gary Muirhead has said it's same this. I'm the same this week, rather. Struggling to get out of bed this week. Maybe it's because I know I'm going on holiday on Saturday. How long are you away, Gary? I mean, you may want to tell me that privately so that people don't realise that your house is empty for a week or whatever. But I think you're going to be away roughly the same time as I am. I think you're going to be away same time as me. We go on the 4th, don't get back until, I want to say the 9th or the 10th, something like that. So it's something like that anyway. Right, okay, let's get this done and dusted, shall we? And let's see who has won the goodie box today. There is our prize draw. Let's press the draw button and see who has won. Andy Darvell, who desperately didn't want Dan Cullen to win, has won it himself. Andy Darvell, congratulations. You've got some stuff coming your way. You have. Let me just have a very quick check. I want to go back and have a look at this. According to my records, you haven't won anything recently, have you? Don't think you have, because I do have I do have some stuff here that I'm kind of eking out. I got a big bunch of stuff from JCB, but you haven't had anything from JCB at all, as far as I can tell on my list here. So that's good news. Good news. Congratulations, Andy. I think that's well deserved. Let's have a look. Peter McKenna says 2 demolition news in that drawer. Yeah, I think it may have been my choice of the word hat, because if I've typed the word that into the chat, it will count that. So yes. Didn't think that through, did I? Gary Muirhead is going to be away for 2 weeks, so you are going to be away at the same time as I am. Plenty of time for the pair of us to think of some new questions of the day. Dan Cullen saying, enjoy your holiday. Gary Muirhead saying, well done to Andy. Andy Darvell is very happy. He says, wahoo. I'm sure he didn't say it quite like that, but that's good news. Good news indeed. Jim Turner saying, fair play, Darv. Dan Cullen, again, Andy, this is a fix. Did he not win the Bobcat? Yes, he did win the Bobcat, but that's okay. That's okay, because this what I'm about to send him is different. I don't want to. Half the reason I'm giving stuff away is because I have duplicates. You know, at one point here, I think I had 25 Komatsu hats. I've given them away over a period. I think at one point I had about a dozen Kinzofa hats. I've given away most of those as well. But that's the reason I'm doing it. And there's no point in me doing it to make you end up with duplicates. That would make no sense at all. So congratulations, Mr. Darvell. I'll get that in the post for you probably later today if I get the chance. Carl's in for a service today. I'm going to go and deal with that at some point today. So quite whether I'll get there or not, it remains to be seen. But you will have it by the weekend. You have my word. It is time for a smidgen of this. Yeah, I want to pick up on this one very, very quickly. We had a couple of bits of good news yesterday, and we've got a bit more good news today. As you can see, Balmer and Kirkland have won the first phase of a £1 billion Golden Valley project down in Cheltenham. HBD, part of Henry Boot, which apparently is up for sale, is delivering the scheme in partnership with Cheltenham Borough Council. It will eventually provide around 2,500 new homes and 1.25 million square feet of commercial space. Balmer and Kirkland will start construction next spring on the first phase, which includes 2 flagship buildings, IDEA and Router, along with enabling works for future phases. IDEA, the National Cyber Innovation Centre, will incorporate 160,000 square feet of high-quality workspace and flexible event facilities, while Router is a transport hub powered by smart technology, which will facilitate sustainable travel across this 200-hectare scheme, alongside a range of leisure, retail, and well-being facilities. Congratulations to Balmer and Kirkland. And I think good news for the industry. That's going to create a few jobs, which, let's face it, we do most definitely need. We're going to play a little bit of Caterpillar now, and then we'll get the show under the road. Caterpillar, stand up, be careful. Thank you very much indeed for Caterpillar, one of our key show sponsors, and I'm sporting one of their centennial hats, and I'll off to see them in America in the not too distant future. Looking forward to it. And speaking of America, we're going there again right now. Remember that the beginning of the old Superman when it was on TV? Is it a bird? Is it a plane? No, it's Superman. Okay, so if you remember that, you're as old as dirt. But so saying that, is it a scraper? Is it a roller? No, it's a K-Tech. Peter McKenna saying that's a fantastic idea. I thought so too. Dan Cullen saying, wow, nice and handy. Wonder is it a vibration roller? I don't think so. Although wouldn't be a bad idea, would it? Andy Darwell says, looks a handy leveler. Yes, it does indeed. Gary Muirhead, going back to all things Caterpillar related, in honor of my hat, he says, I must admit, I'm quite enjoying this Cat 352 at the moment. It's not a Volvo, but just as good. Hopefully my new Volvo EC550 will be here when I get back from holiday. You've timed that terribly, Gary. That means that somebody else may have operated it before you get it. And rather than that lovely new machine smell, you may be getting stale arse smell instead. I'm just saying, listen, the people you work with may be spotlessly clean, and in which case I have just offended them, and for that I apologize. But I'd much rather have it brand spanking new, wouldn't you? Peter McKenna says, farmer that I watch has been using a scraper box on a few of his fields to level them off. Yeah. They do tie in really, really quite nicely with tractors as well. Mark Whiting, late but welcome nonetheless. Morning, Mark. How are you doing, my friend? Dan Cullen saying EC550, Gary. Wow, yeah, that's a proper tool. Although, having said that, Cat 3, however, our friend all the way from New Zealand says, interesting bit of kit. He probably does it with a slightly strange accent, but he says it nonetheless. Gary Muirhead says, I never thought about that. I just hope he doesn't fart in it. Put a sign up. Oh, no, you can't. You haven't got the machine yet. Take them to one side and encourage them or discourage them from eating beans before you get back. Maybe that's a thought. I don't know how we got there, and I can only apologise. We're going Demolition in a moment with the fine folks at Econ after this.
If you are enjoying this episode, please consider supporting the show. You can leave us a tip at buymeacoffee.com/demolition news.
Yeah, spotted this on LinkedIn yesterday, the fine folks at the Econ group, and I thought I'd share it with you. It looks like this. Love us a bit of time lapse. Andy Thornton just said, looks like a scene out of Jules Verne's Time Machine. What a marvelous book that is. What a marvelous movie that is. Love it. Love that stuff. Peter McKenna. I didn't expect to be here, but I'm going to do it nonetheless. Broccoli farts are worse. Worse than beans. Yeah, they may well be. I've got that beat, though. I've got that beat. My eldest son, who is a manager at David Lloyd for quite a time when he first started working with David Lloyd, he really became a bit of a gym bunny, really into the gym. He was in there 5 and 6, sometimes even 7 days a week. So he was very much into nutrition and bulking up and all that. And he was on, the protein powders. He was making protein milkshakes. Yeah. The aftermath of a protein shake can clear a room. Even the dog, and be honest, dog farts are not good. Even the dog was giving him a side eye. Let's have a look. Dan Cutler says, it looks like that looks an old vid as they got Komatsu and Hatashi now. A bit too fast. Pity the guy in the office doesn't respect the guys on the ground. Maybe you just called him on a bad day, Danny. Neil Bruce, tidy demolition work. Yeah, absolutely. Although down in New Zealand, you've got some damn fine demolition proponents down there. Nick Howe and Ward, absolutely top notch. Lima's a nice guy, but the resource managers has an attitude. Hey, do you want to talk about attitude? You've come to the right place. You've met me. You know what I'm like. Anywho, let's press on. Let us press on. We're going to be talking hydrogen engines or hydrogen power in just a moment with Caterpillar, of all people. Back after this. I think this is pretty typical of Caterpillar, to be honest. The likes of JCB and Hyundai have been waving the hydrogen flag for quite some time. And I've got to be honest, it left me questioning whether Caterpillar were paying attention. Of course they are. Of course they are. They are the biggest construction equipment manufacturer in the world, and for good reason. They've been quietly beavering away in the background, as you're about to hear.
Welcome back. I'm Kyle Bauska from Caterpillar Engines Division, here with another installation for our Advanced Power Series. Let's talk about hydrogen. Here at Caterpillar, we have a ton of experience with gaseous and hydrogen fuels. To be more exact, we have over 35 years looking back into our electric power generations. And that is typically where we've seen most of Caterpillar's success with hydrogen and gaseous fuels is the typical Caterpillar generator. Now, while we are looking into more mobile solutions, it is important to realize the trades of the benefits and the trade-offs of hydrogen and gaseous fuels. With that being said, a new engine will typically be needed when dealing with gaseous fuels such as hydrogen versus your more traditional diesel engine. There are many great trade-offs as well as benefits when looking at alternative gaseous fuels like hydrogen and comparing them to your more traditional diesel fuel sources. For example, your hydrogen can lower your overall carbon footprint when utilizing the cleanliness of a manufacturing process with regards to where the customer is getting their hydrogen. When we look at a more traditional diesel, it has a little bit more power density, which means you get a little bit more power. However, rest assured, your Caterpillar engineers are working tirelessly to minimize the power difference between hydrogen and diesel power. So when we look at different types of hydrogen, we can look at how they're made and how those affect your overall carbon footprint. For example, traditional gray hydrogen that is made from fossil fuels can be noted that they are using fossil fuels and they emit that CO2 back into the atmosphere. Another type of hydrogen that uses the same process but recaptures that CO2 is called blue hydrogen, which can impact the overall carbon footprint for your usage. Finally, we have green hydrogen. And green hydrogen captures electricity from renewable sources such as wind or solar, and we take that and utilize electrolysis. Electrolysis separates your H molecule to your O molecule and water, H2O, and gives us hydrogen and oxygen. Please talk more with your Caterpillar rep or visit us on our website to make sure that you have the information needed to best fit your solution and your customer. I'm Kyle with Caterpillar. I really hope you enjoyed these videos, and if you did, hit that like button and subscribe for more short videos.
Thanks, Kyle. I knew most of that, but all good stuff. All good stuff. Good explanation. Andy Dalvell says, I've tracked the crane up and down the long haul road 3 times today. The idlers and the rollers are glowing. Don't waste that heat. Don't waste that heat. Get yourself some marshmallows and a long stick. S'mores is what I'm suggesting. S'mores, I would say. Back doing Ramax and backfill again. May send another video to the group. Please do that, Dan. Dan Cullen say, cook an egg. Yes. Can you fry an egg? Can you fry an egg on your idlers? I wonder. Might be lightly boiled, perhaps. But yeah, we've got one more video to play you. We were talking yesterday, actually, about the engineering marvel that is modern construction equipment. And I did actually mention the fact that modern machine cabs are isolated from ups and downs and lumps and bumps and vibration and stuff. You're about to see that writ large.
Since the finance bill came into effect in April, the construction industry has seen a surge of fuel thefts. The rising cost of living has placed an additional risk of theft by employees and contractors, as well as opportunistic thieves. By using diesel dye and placing warnings of its use, you are sending a clear message that this is your fuel.
There are suspended cabs and there are suspended cabs. This from Merlo is a suspended cab. Pretty smart, right? I'd quite like one of those here. I'd love to operate from there. Andy Dalvell says, do engines that run purely on purely gas sound different to liquid-powered engines? Don't know. Didn't notice it. I've heard the JCB hydrogen combustion engine sounds exactly the same as a diesel, as far as I could tell. Having said that, my ears are not particularly well tuned to these things. Maybe you guys might pick it up. Andy Dalvell, again, that Merlo cab is a fantastic idea. But do you remember was it Citroen? You get in a Citroen and the car would kind of rise and do its. Remember that? Not just me, is it? Question, says Dan Cullen. Why do a lot of operators kick machines in fast track? It's unbelievable as you're working near deep trench and it's dangerous. That's a question to the audience. Why do they do that? And it's bad for the chains and sprockets. It is. I think there's always been that. I think that's part of the extension of the whole macho thing in this industry. Maximum revs, maximum bang, black smoke. Even though you don't need any of those things, I think that's just part of the way that this industry has been raised. Feels a bit out of date these days, to be honest, but there you are. Anyway, that's about it for the main part of this morning's show. Hopefully I've bored you because what we're about to talk about is sleep or the lack thereof. Hopefully the morning monologue today will make you drift off safely. Please park your machine if you're going to have a doze after hearing this. I am going to roll the outro in just a second before leaping gazelle-like over into my morning monologue. If you can't stick around for that, do please stay safe. Look after yourself, your family, your friends and your colleagues. Hope to see you again very soon. Tomorrow, fully rested. It'll make sense in a moment, I promise. If you do have the time and the inclination, however, I shall return after this. The alarm clock doesn't even need to ring anymore. Long before it sounds, the demolition worker is awake, staring at the ceiling, body heavy with exhaustion, yet mind restless with yesterday's problems and today's challenges. At 3:45 a.m, the day begins in darkness. He dresses quietly, trying not to wake his partner or his children, and slips out of the house. Long before most of the country is stirring from sleep, he's already halfway down the motorway, heading towards a site that will demand every ounce of his concentration. This is daily life for countless men and women in demolition and construction. Early starts, long commutes, brutal shifts, and late returns. They leave home while the nation sleeps, work 9, 10, maybe even more hours, often without a meaningful break, and then sit for hours in rush hour traffic on their way home. By the time they finally step through the front door, they've been awake for 16, 17, even 18 hours. There's barely time for a quick meal, a short conversation, maybe a kiss goodnight for their children, and then just when their body is crying out for rest, their mind refuses to switch off. The day replays in their head. What went wrong? What still needs to be done? What will tomorrow bring? Sleep comes late, and when it does, it's shallow and restless. And then the cycle begins again. We often talk about toughness in this industry. Hard work never killed anyone, goes the old refrain. It's a lie we've told ourselves for so long that we've actually started to believe it. Sleep deprivation is not a harmless side effect of hard graft. It's dangerous, corrosive, and every bit as hazardous as the sites we work on. It eats away at health, clouds judgment, and casts long shadows over safety on site, safety on the road, and even safety at home. The human body isn't designed to endure repeated bouts of sleep loss. Being awake for 18 hours impairs performance to a level comparable with being legally drunk. Stretch that to 24 hours, and the impairment is severe. Reaction time slow, coordination falters, decision making collapses. Physically, the damage accumulates. Muscles struggle to repair themselves. The immune system weakens, making workers more prone to illness. Blood pressure rises, the heart strains, and the risk of cardiovascular disease climbs. Appetite hormones are disrupted, leading to poor diet choices and weight gain. Over time, the body becomes a battlefield where there is only ever one winner: exhaustion. And yet, in demolition and construction, this is the norm. Workers climb into machines after nights of broken sleep, their bodies running on fumes. We don't tolerate drunkenness on site, but somehow we tolerate and even glorify something equally harmful: fatigue. The damage isn't only physical, the mind pays just as steep a price. Concentration suffers, focus slips, mistakes creep in, a mismeasured cut, a misplaced tool, a forgotten check. Individually, these might seem small, but collectively, they can sow the seeds of disaster. Chronic fatigue also erodes mental health. Anxiety grows, irritability sharpens, depression lurks in the background. A worker who spends his days fighting fatigue has little energy left for patience or empathy. Home life bears the brunt. Abrupt conversations, emotional distance, and strained relationships. Children see less of their parents, partners carry the emotional load of families left half empty by exhaustion. And when the mind does finally lie down, it still doesn't rest. It replays yesterday's errors. It replays yesterday's errors, tomorrow's deadlines, the constant pressure to keep going. True rest never comes. Safety is where the implications of sleep deprivation are most visible and most frightening. Demolition and construction are already high-risk industries. Heavy machinery requires sharp reflexes and laser-like focus. Cutting, lifting, and rigging demand precision. Working at height requires balance and coordination. Fatigue undermines all of those. We plaster sites with safety signs. We hand out PPE. We enforce rules about alcohol and drugs. Yet we turn a blind eye to the equally dangerous state of exhaustion. A fatigued worker is a hazard, not because they lack skill, but because fatigue robs them of the ability to use that skill properly. The accidents we attribute to human error often have a quieter culprit: sleep deprivation. And the danger doesn't stop when the shift ends. After a long day on site, workers climb back into their cars and their vans, joining the chaos of rush hour traffic. They drive for hours, eyelids heavy, attention fraying. How many near misses happen each day? How many collisions? How many tragedies? Driving drowsy is no different than driving drunk. But unlike drink driving, there's no stigma, there's no breathalyzer, no company policy to stop it. We simply accept it as part of the job. The toll of chronic sleep deprivation is not measured only in daily mistakes or near misses. It builds over years, slowly and relentlessly. Workers who endure this cycle face higher risks of diabetes, obesity, stroke, and heart disease. Their life expectancy shortens, their quality of life diminishes, and burnout becomes inevitable. Perhaps the saddest truth in all this is that we accept this as normal. We tell ourselves this is just how the industry works. Early starts, long days, late nights, it's all part of the culture. But is it really necessary? We've modernised in so many ways. We've adopted new technology, embraced safer machinery, tightened regulations, and demanded higher environmental standards. But when it comes to that most basic of human requirements, sleep, we still treat it as optional, as though toughness can replace rest. It can't. Toughness without recovery isn't resilience. It's a ticking time bomb for the worker, for their families, and for those working alongside them. Sleep deprivation is not a badge of honour. It's not a proof of commitment. It's not a necessary evil. It's a health hazard and a safety risk. The price is paid not just in accidents and illness, but in careers cut short and lives diminished. We can't keep running on empty because sooner or later, the tank doesn't run dry. The whole system breaks down completely. And when it does, the cost is far greater than a missed deadline or an incomplete job. The cost is human. In demolition and construction circles, we talk endlessly about the need for sustainability. Shouldn't we also build a sustainable future for the people that make it all possible? There you are. Anybody feeling tired? Anybody feeling tired? Love to hear from you if you are. What time did you start your day today? That's kind of what's on the agenda today. Let's go back to here. Andy WL says, yes, air ride suspension. Even Mr. Clarkson said it's one of the best riding cars on rough ground. You can drive a Citroën de Cheveux, it's a 2CV to you, across a ploughed field with a basket of eggs. I don't know why you'd want to do that, but I'm sure you probably could. Dan Conte saying, well written. Thank you very much. It's most kind. Yes, sites are more dangerous than people realise. Guys driving 2+ hours each way and doing 10-hour+ shifts. Yeah. So that's a 14-hour working day, which is a lot. I mean, back when I was an employed person, I used to work. Slightly embarrassed to say this. My union, back when I was on a magazine, we were permitted to work 32.5 hours a week. We did work a bit more than that, I'll be absolutely honest with you, but 32.5 hours. Somebody working in demolition or construction would do that in 3 days. I was doing it in 5. And it does take its toll. It does take its toll, and it takes its toll at both ends. I'm sure I'm not alone in having driven down the motorway. Trying to sleep with one eye. You ever tried that? Don't do it. It's really, really stupid and really, really dangerous. But I've been that tired, I've ended up trying to sleep with one eye. And I'm sure I've mentioned this before. I once made the ridiculous decision to drive to Newcastle and back in a day. About a 700-mile round trip. And about halfway back home again, I was literally thinking, you're a danger to yourself and others. You need to pull over. So about 4 o'clock in the afternoon, I pulled into a service area, wound the seat back, laid back, and thought I'll just grab 10 minutes. And I woke up and it was dark out. It was about 9:45 at night. I'd been asleep for about 5 hours. Absolutely spark out. What does that tell you about my condition to drive? Not good. Not good, I would say. And even if you are on your way to work or are late due to an accident, you get punishment and loss of pay. Not fair at all. Then they drive home angry and tired, no meaningful conversations. Yeah. Who takes the brunt of, when you're tired and when you're angry and stuff? It's the people closest to you. You don't want to go and have a shouting match with the people you're working with, or worse still, one of your bosses. So who gets it? Wife, girlfriend, spouse, partner, whoever. Yeah. And if you snooze on the job, you're classed as lazy. Yeah. And I always think with these things, you kind of need to take a bit of a step back. Bit of a step back. If somebody is having a doze at lunchtime on site, are they lazy or is there something else? Now, it might be a case of that they've been out on the sauce all weekend and they've nobody to blame for their tiredness themselves. Or is it the fact that you are employing people from Watford and working them in Doncaster, but offering them so little in terms of digs and so on that they're having to commute? Watford and Doncaster is probably a bit of an extreme example, but you take my point. So by the time people arrive, they're already frazzled, having endured Britain's motorways, which are no great fun at the best of times. You then work them like a dog. You then load them back in their car or van and send them back home again to do that same thing 4, 5, 6 times a week. Is the real reason that they're having a doze at lunchtime because they've got an overactive social life, or is that down to you and your working practices? Andy Thornton says this is a multi-layered problem. The real fix: shift design that respects circadian rhythms. I had to look that up actually. Back in the day, there's a brilliant song. I mean, I have to say I'm a bit of a fan of the band. There's a band, you know, the band REM, Everybody Hurts and Losing My Religion and stuff. But they did a song called Day Sleeper, and it's talking about people, you know, working nights and affecting their circadian rhythms. And I had to look up to find out what they were. Big deal. It's a big deal. Fatigue fades when biology leads. Consider CBT if this is an ongoing problem. It can really help. CBT for sleep deprivation. Did not know that. I know my mother-in-law has got MS, and CBT helps with that a fair bit. I didn't realise it also worked on exhaustion and stuff, or fatigue. Neil Bruce says early days were rough, but as I became more experienced, life became much easier. Fair dues. Mark, that is very well written. Fantastic deal too. I got to site 5 to 6 this morning, every day. Up at 4 a.m, not home until 7. Reason I get up and out early is train times and then taxi as after the 6 a.m. price. That's a long day, man. That's a long day. Up at 4. I mean, I get up at 7 and I complain about being tired. Dan's been up 3 hours before I've even started my day. I'm bearing in mind, you know, my commute is okay. I'm going to go back to Andy Thornton in just a moment. My commute is 13 stairs. I don't have to worry about trains and taxis and things like that. Andy Darvell says, I'm always tired, but life is easier now operating cranes. When operating, the level of concentration is at the same level when operating a high ridge. I feel exhausted at the end of the day. We're going to go back to this. CBT is cognitive behavioral therapy for insomnia. I thought you were talking about CBT as in the CBT. Andy Darvell, one of the first things that a company asks you to sign when you start them is a form to say you're okay to work over 38 hours or however many it is. Just show how the industry works. Flat out 38 hours. Now, bearing in mind, and I didn't just throw that together. I can't because people will pick up on it. 24 hours. You work for 20, or if you do not sleep for 24 hours, you are as impaired as if you were drunk. What are you like after 38 hours? And you're operating heavy equipment? Is that really a good idea? And we're asking people to sign that. I mean, I've always thought that with the medical profession. You know, when you've got doctors and nurses working for 12 and 13 and 14 hours shifts, and then they go off, they get a few hours kip, and then they come back. And do I really want to be operated on by somebody that's not had enough sleep? Just saying. People don't understand how exhausting it is operating machines. With the stupidity of guys walk around the kit, you need eyes in the back of your head. Very stressful, and they think it's easy, and it's not. It's not. No, it's not. It does require total concentration. It is like, I would liken it to driving on a motorway. Bear with me. When I drive on a motorway, I'm very, very much reminded of COVID. Okay, so because of COVID, I didn't drive much for about 2 years, and when I went back to driving on motorways, I hadn't done it for, as I say, best part of 2 years, and I was very, very aware of what was going on, and I do find myself now on a motorway driving a car, but I'm also driving for about 5 other people all around me. I'm thinking, I don't think that guy over there seen me coming up the fast lane. That guy in front of me doesn't know I'm behind him. He hasn't looked at his mirrors in ages. The guy behind me is way, way, way too close to me. I'm driving for 4 or 5 people. And you put yourself on an excavator. Yes, your job is to dig that hole or make that trench or whatever it might be, but you've got a dumper over there, you've got a dozer over there, you've got some pillock with a shovel stood behind you having a fag, or he's walking around on his phone, and you are thinking for all of those people. All the time you're on a machine, you are not just concentrating for one, you're concentrating quite potentially for 4 or 5 different people. That must be absolutely exhausting. Plus the physical tiredness. You've been up for 14, 15 hours without a break. And even that, back in my day, I used to have a bit of a mid-morning break when I was working in an office. 10:30, they'd put the vending machine on half price or sometimes free. You'd go and grab yourself a cup of coffee, you'd have a bit of a chat with your friends, you'd sit back, rest a little bit, and then about, I don't know, 15, 20 minutes later, you'd get back to work. And then when lunchtime rolled around, you'd have an hour. You'd go and have a stroll down the road, or you'd go and put your feet up somewhere. You'd go to the fully subsidized canteen and sit there and have your lunch and, basically chill out for a bit. Now, who does that? Who genuinely gets a mid-morning break of any real note? I mean, I know that this show is timed at 10 o'clock because it coincides with the traditional break time, but I know full well that some of you guys are actually listening to this. You're not watching it, you're listening to it because you're already working. Because that break has kind of gone by the board. An hour for lunch? Who the fuck gets an hour for lunch these days? You're lucky if you get 15 minutes. And you've been there since dawn. I tell guys this exactly. They think it's very easy sitting there. I bet they do. Andy Deville, it's the European Work Time Directive. I mean, over 1 week, not per day. Thank God for that. Jim Turner, up at 5:30, leave at 6:30 a.m., finish at 4 p.m., hour travel to my place, then work till at least 8 p.m. Now, if you're home by 5, 5:30, and you then choose to work for 8 till 8, well, that's your thing. You're on your own time, you're doing your own thing. But there are people out there that are working that long, kind of enforced by their employer. People ringing me. I don't know what that's all about. Dan says, it looks easy, but you need to look around, watch what's happening, and check the kit. Yeah, even that, keeping an eye on the kit. And when you think about all that's going on with the kit these days, it used to be a case you'd make sure you had enough oil in it, make sure you had enough water in it, make sure the tracks were tightened properly, and then you'd crack on. Maybe you wouldn't even think about that for another week. But now you've got a screen, possibly 2, possibly 3, that are bombarding you with, have you checked this? Have you checked that? Are you aware of this? This is happening. That's happening. Don't forget to do. It's a constant strain. Neil Bruce, down under-ish, New Zealand, 6 to 5 Monday to Friday. Nana's hours. 6 to 5, yeah. It's a 13-hour day without the commute, I would imagine. Andy Thornton, eyes in the back of your head, or maybe 360-degree cameras. That sounds familiar. I'm fairly sure a handsome man spoke about that just yesterday, didn't he? 38 hours is when you're on PAYE, but most sites, self-employed basis, 45 plus hours a week. On the site we're here at Wisley, 52 hours a week, 5 days. Yeah, that's more like the norm, I would say. Yes, Mark, says Dan, you are watching the guys. What's going to be their next move? I often lose it with people and say that, yeah, you do genuinely. And I realise that's always been the case. Particularly if you're an excavator, you need to tell the person, the guy on the dozer, tidy that up. You need to tell the guy on the dumper or the dump truck, park in that place there because that'll be easier for me to load and everything else. I think that's part of it. But I think the way we have it now, and I'll go back to the level of competence and training within the industry. You are literally thinking for other people. The guy that's driving a dumper while he's talking on his phone. I can't have that. He's a danger to himself and he's a danger to me. I've got to go and sort that out. The constant strain. Andy Darvell says the standards of driving has got a shitload worse in the last 10 to 15 years. People not indicating, not using mirrors, sat in the middle lanes, not even thinking about moving back and overtaking. Do you know, we drove back from just up the road from Haywards Heath on Saturday this week, and there was a guy sat in the middle lane, and he was doing about 50 miles an hour, sometimes like 45, sometimes 50. We're on the M23, and he's doing 50 miles an hour. And because of the level of traffic, I was really struggling to get around him. And when I finally did go around him, I looked over to basically figure out why this person was driving at such a speed. Oh, he gave me a right mouthful. Mate, you're on a motorway. You can't be driving down the middle lane at 45. You're gonna cause an accident. But no, apparently I was in the wrong for overtaking him. Jim Turner says this. No, that's not what Jim Turner says. Jim Turner says this. Operating the machine is where I'm most relaxed and happy. The motorway driving zaps my energy because it's so boring. Yeah, that is certainly the case. Never a good idea, but we needs must have to bite the bullet. Would you prefer to go home in a box, or do you want to drive home? If later, use your head and watch what's going on. Check your safety and don't stand near moving equipment, as one little move can have you leaving in a black van, he says. Dead right. And Neil Bruce going back to his what was he saying? 6 till 5? Yeah, 6 till 5 Monday to Friday, plus an hour's travel. Andy Novell says, I did my blue light driver training when in the fire brigade. You were trying to look as far ahead as possible, but also keeping an eye on everyone around you. I drive same now as standards of shit. Yeah. As I say, I'm no kidding. I do genuinely, and I'm more aware of it post-COVID. I'm more aware of it, but I do find myself driving not just on motorways, but primarily on motorways because of the high speeds. Driving along, thinking, what's he doing? What's he doing? What are they doing? Have they thought of this? What? And you're. I used to drive like this, arms at full stretch, seat a little bit back. Now I kind of find myself, because there are so many bloody idiots on the road and on site, it would appear. I threw some fucks into them. Foreman stopped telling me not to, as he's the reason why. I don't know what that means. I don't know what any of that means, but Dan is clearly pissed off about something. Dan says, 70 mile an hour is limit. Some people have no clue on rules of the road. Ain't that the truth? And they got their license from a Kellogg's box. Haven't heard that expression for quite some time, but I do wonder sometimes. I do wonder. And I'd also wonder, there are some very bad drivers on the road. But they've all, presumably, they've all passed a test. They've all got working vehicles because of MOTs and various other bits and pieces. I wonder about that on site. We talk about the inadequacy of competence cards and the fact that they don't actually prove competence at all. I do wonder about that. Does that play on your mind? You guys are the operators. Are you driving your machine thinking, I know that guy's got a card, but judging by the way he's driving, I would question the validity of his card. And if you start to think that for 1, 2, 3 different people around you, you must be driving on like a razor's edge of your nerves all the time. What's he doing? What's he doing? Is he really going to do that? Why is he doing that? Why is he over there? Everybody, it is that time. Go. I'm not going to say go to sleep because your boss will probably have a go at you if you do that. And although on a slightly different subject, I miss the toys you used to get from cereal boxes, but yeah, a lot of guys did seem to get them from Kellogg's. Same as car drivers got their license from Legoland. Do they still do that at Legoland? I remember my kids had driving licenses from Legoland. They really did. just going back to the, and I'm going off complete tangent now. I don't know what breakfast cereal it was, and I literally no idea how the technology of this works, but I remember getting a thing from a box of cornflakes or Weetabix or whatever it might be, and it was kind of like a pull cord, but with teeth. And so it was T-shaped. There was the T at the top, which is bit you held, and then there was this long strip that had like a saw blade teeth. If you punched a hole into a cardboard box and then fed the thing through and pulled the cord at the right speed, it was Winston Churchill saying, "We will fight them on the beaches." I know it sounds like I'm making that shit up. I honestly, that's a real thing. That is a real thing that actually happened. We will fight them on the beaches, which is just what you want as a 7-year-old enjoying his breakfast cereal. Yeah. Um, Andy Darwell says his daughter got him a Legoland driving license a few years ago. Even though she went round the roundabout the wrong way and had a head-on collision, they still deemed her sufficient to get hers. Listen, that may well stand her in good stead in years to come. You never know. Remember getting toy cars in Easter eggs? Yeah, yeah. Everybody believes they're a better than average driver, which means they must just be average. Easy for some to confuse overconfidence with competence. Yeah, I've seen that a few times. Yeah, I one of my mates fancied himself as a bit of a rally driver on roads. Scared the bejesus out of me. They used to put toys in cereals, but been years since I've seen them. Yeah, they used to be a big thing, didn't it? And do you remember? Look, I don't know how we've ended up here, but since we're here, let's talk about it. So there were some breakfast cereals where they would actually put the toy in the cereal, so you'd have to dig through your cornflakes and, oh look, there's a plastic cowboy, fantastic. I'll add that to my collection. But there were others that used to put it under the bag at the bottom, and you'd go through your cornflakes. Oh bloody hell, they've missed out my toy. I'm gutted. I really want. Oh look. And you'd get all the way to the bottom of the box, and there was your toy. Anyone remember that? I'm as old as dirt. Someone probably choked on my dad. Yeah, yeah. My father-in-law, God bless him, was an avid collector of the toys from McDonald's Happy Meals. He was absolutely convinced that one day these will be worth a fortune. He failed to overlook the fact that they were being produced in the tens of millions, if not the hundreds of millions. So yes, somewhere probably in his loft, there's bags of Happy Meal toys that everybody in the world has got. Yeah. Anywho, people, that will do us for today. I don't know how we ended up on breakfast cereal toys, but that's the way the thing rolls. And broccoli farts. Don't let's forget, we did a detour to take in broccoli farts. Thanks for that, Peter. Invaluable contribution you made there. I'll be back tomorrow for yet more of the same. Until then, everybody, have a fine and splendid day. Make sure you try and get your 8 hours tonight. Even if you think you don't need it, try and have a decent night's sleep. See you tomorrow. All the best.
If you are enjoying this episode, please consider supporting the show. You can leave us a tip at buymeacoffee.com/demolition news.